Yeah.
Okay.
He had something going on.
Oh, I don't know what that is. They've lost the cake.
They ate it all. Yeah, they.
Yeah, we're doing good. You're not gonna take. I like it. Not now. What?
I'll get it.
I don't think she's still.
Yeah. So I got. That's disadvantage. It's gonna be really difficult finding something to argue about. I'm not discounting, and I'm just saying.
Yeah.
I don't want to. I just lost our.
He was just relaxed.
Come on. Yeah, okay, just search your record. Search your record. The over under. Oh, on everything. Gosh, I hope so. Because I don't quite.
Oh, and this one too.
Right there.
I'm trying to figure out. Well, I usually hide it. Carol looks down and watches. It's just different.
There to.
Yeah, they have great
Yeah.
Yeah, we went to my networks north today. I learned a lot. And it wasn't until I was talking to Dan out there that I figured out why it is such a confusing organization. Because you have, what was it called, the MCOG, and then you got over here, MWorks, which is, well, anyways, and then you put them all in one. Well, so I think that's just the inherent. They don't match.
Yeah.
It has to be.
You just go ahead.
I didn't do that.
And the last meeting was in
Oh, yeah, when you were saying about these great meals, I got a bag of potato chips and I was like, okay. That's really what you're. So yesterday, I went to
That's
the,
what babies do, you know that.
Yep.
They're good at it.
All right, we're gonna call this meeting to order. We can again stand for the pledge, followed by a moment of silence. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. All right, we can have the roll call.
Commissioner Robbins.
Here.
Commissioner Walter is absent prior notice. Commissioner Bonnick.
Present.
Commissioner Wessel.
Here.
Commissioner Campbell.
Here.
Commissioner Allgaier.
Yes.
Chairman Yoder.
Here.
All correct, well, 6 from us.
Yeah, 6 present. Sounds like we got some static out there. Somebody's phone too close to the. Next up, we have our approval of board minutes. So we got 5 sets there. Have a motion. Russell?
I move to approve the regular session minutes of January 21, the regular session minutes of February 18, the executive board session of March 11, and the closed session minutes of March 11, both sessions.
Second.
Right, supported by Commissioner Robbins, discussion. Not, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Motion carried 6-0. All right, next up, we got approval of agenda, late additions or deletions.
Late addition. I'd like to add to our late addition here that we talked for at least 5 hours to midnight to keep Richard Lewis here. So I'm joking.
I'll give you 6.
Yeah, but you won't be here a lot of time.
Okay, I mean, it's your money. As long as you want to know. I think there was supposed to be one addition here. I think we had another, I sent it to you, an additional 2% to add to it, and I'll try to find it here. Oh, it's not going to need that one, wherever we put all this stuff.
Child care safe haven.
Yeah, it's on your table. It was a 2% from lady. I sent it to you in an email. Anyway, you know, I got an additional 2%. Let me see what's going to.
Richard Warren Sheet, page 4, bottom.
Excuse me?
That's the probate and family division, child and family services. Is that what you want?
Yeah.
For safe haven?
Yes, for safe haven, and it will be listed under action item 3D will be sub 4. Okay, I think there's somewhere in here somewhere. Thank you.
Motion,
Approve the agenda as presented and amended.
Second.
all right, motion made, supported by Commissioner Robbins, discussion. Not, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Carried 6-0. All right, next up, we have communications.
Okay. Okay, the only one I have is from, I want to update you on this Point broadband. On your desk, I do have a memo from Mr. Steve Ponzano, who is probably the Vice President of Construction for Point Broadband. I had asked him last week if he can give us kind of a clue as to when, you know, not most of their, for the remaining cabins that we have out there will be completed. So this is their guidelines, what they're hoping to accomplish and when they hope to have everything done. So they did that to me. Of course, as he did put the disclaimer in there, it all depends on cross laws. I also have a copy in there of when we think cross laws will be done, because I did ask Mr. Mullen about that. Frost is still down 3 feet in the ground, so until they get that, nobody's going to be going to work. But just so you all have a kind of a, it's kind of my parting shot on Point Broadband at this point. So here's where we are. There you go. All right, that's it. You won't have to hear about me say that anymore, will you? Okay.
All right, any questions for Richard? All right, if not, we'll move on to our Leelanau District Health Department annual update.
Hi, everybody.
Good evening, Commissioners. All right. My name is Dan Throm, the Health Officer for the Leelanau District Health Department, and I'm here to talk about our 2024 annual report and just some general updates and whatnot. So in 2024, Leelanau continued to be active in the community and provide exceptional services. We have highlighted some staff achievements in the report, which you can read, and which this also emphasizes the level of dedication and talent we have within our ranks. This was evident as we worked through our state accreditation review, which is a 3-year cycle for our essential local public health services, and our school wellness programs. And in fact, we were told by the reviewers that many of our programs are models for other health departments in the state, which made me really proud. And we just have an excellent staff, so really proud of their work. And they often, ask if they can share processes or policies that we've developed. So, I mean, I think that's a good sign that we're doing a good job. So our personal health division is responsible for many public health programs such as WIC, maternal infant health program, children's special health care, community connections, just to name a few. In recent days, we've had a lot going on in the news regarding measles outbreaks, and we've actually put out a press release, and I've been interviewed, and Michelle Klein here to my left, the personal health director, has been interviewed. And we just wanted to kind of talk about some of that and highlight the department's immunization program. And so I'm going to turn over the presentation to Michelle to kind of talk about some of that stuff.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. So I thought, there's a lot, all of the programs are in the annual report, but the immunization program is one of our biggest. It's got about a $760,000 a year budget, 500,000 of which is purchasing vaccines. So they're pretty expensive. Last year we gave about 3,400 vaccines, which is about pretty much what we gave the year before. So we touch a lot of people in the community with that. Vaccines are available for all ages, infants up through our seniors. And we do have programs as well that help folks that don't have an insurance. So everybody can get whatever vaccines they need. I will say though, so we do track, immunization rates with our children because that's an important element for us when we're talking about disease prevention. And we're still about 10% behind what we were pre-COVID as far as our kids that are up to date with the recommended vaccines. So we're continuing to work on that, provide information. We offer clinics at the schools, and we just want to do whatever we can to, remove any barriers that families may have. And with that in mind, I do want to talk about measles for just a minute because it's in the news, and most likely many of you have heard there's outbreaks going on around the country, which do happen. Right now, though, we've had more cases of measles in the country so far in 2025 than we had of all of 2024. And measles is just one of the most contagious diseases we have. So I did a little looking just for our, Leelanau County and where are we at. Most measles cases are occurring amongst children. And when I looked at our school age kids, ages 5 through 18, about 81% of them have been vaccinated against measles. So while that seems like not a bad number, what that really means to us is there's about 350 kids that would be vulnerable if we should have a measles, some measles cases in our community. So with that said, and with the contagiousness of measles and the travel, it wouldn't be unheard of that we would start seeing some cases here.
So
Yeah.
I've heard that an area needs a 95% vaccination rate.
Mm-hmm.
to
That's
be-
the goal, to feel really protected against outbreaks, right? Yeah, so we're a ways from there.
We're a ways from there.
We're a ways, yeah.
And what are some of the repercussions of measles?
Well, measles is because it's so contagious. So many people can get it, and those that have the severe illness rate is rare, but when you have so many people getting sick, you're going to see that, and you can end up with encephalitis, which causes seizures, can cause permanent deafness, it can cause neurological, permanent neurological damage. And I will say, in my personal experience, right, I was the age right when they started giving measles vaccine. So, throughout my life, I really didn't know anybody that had measles until 10 years or so ago. We had a few cases here in this community, and I was pretty shocked at how sick they were. These were really, really sick individuals for a couple of weeks, miserably ill. So, it's not anything to mess with. I would choose to get vaccinated for sure, as opposed to going through that. So what we're doing though, is we really are trying to provide a lot of public information. We'll be doing some clinics in April, early April, specifically for after school hours to catch those kids, if their parents wish to get them vaccinated, we want to do that for them. Measles vaccines available all the time. So anybody can get it, to schedule an appointment with us. Yeah.
Yeah,
You mentioned that, you said you're 10% behind in vaccines. What does that mean? I don't. quite
Oh, yeah, let me
10%
explain
behind.
it. So when we track, there's a couple of age groups, we track vaccines, whether they have all recommended vaccines. We look at the 19 to 36-month-olds, and then we look at the 13 to 18-year-olds. And so we want those rates to be as high as we can, meaning the higher the percentage, the more of those kids have all of the recommended vaccines that they need. So over COVID, during that period of time, we weren't seeing kids, physicians weren't seeing kids for physicals, and the vaccination rates dropped. And we're still playing catch up from that. Yeah. So
Mess things up.
it did, from a public health perspective, it sure did. Yeah, it sure did. So, and as we know, there's some controversy around vaccines and some mistrust and things like that too, that we're really trying to provide as much information as we can. So, our
I
families
did
can.
hear today on the radio, your announcement about measles, the public, and it was really good, and I think it would encourage people to, the way it sounded, to encourage people to get vaccinated.
Mhm.
That was good.
Yeah. I hope we see a lot of folks. We've ordered a little extra vaccine and we're ready to provide it. So, and we're definitely seeing an uptick in phone calls too, with people questioning. So if y'all know anybody that has any questions, just wants to explore whether or not they should get the vaccine or not, they can give us a call or talk to their physician. Almost every primary care provider, doctor's office also carries it. It's a very easy to get vaccine.
Yeah, and I'll just add that, we're just trying to be proactive, especially,
Yeah.
Like Michelle said, people going on spring break, traveling around the country and coming in contact with others. And, one of the things we're doing this week is meeting with school leadership, just to talk about it, right?
Mhm.
What questions do you have? Let's, be prepared. Let's not have, something going on or some individuals that, come up with measles and not know what we're doing right off the bat. So, that's something that we really want to, focus on with them. And, there's just a lot of information out there. In fact, I think the Leelanau Enterprise this week
Mhm.
printed a story, and actually in the headline, it was a little off. Michelle, I mentioned the 81%, it said 8%. So,
Yeah.
so we want to also just clarify that. So.
She's going to correct that this next paper, she said.
Right.
So, yeah.
So.
Yeah, those things happen. So.
I had one other question about, I know you have a program where you're trying to get nurses into the schools. How is that going? Is that, I think that would help.
It's going wonderfully. Yeah, it really is. They've been very active in the schools, and Dan did allude to that. We just had our site visits with the state, and they were just real impressed for a new program. The schools seem to be really happy. They're connecting with lots of kids and lots of families, and they're talking about vaccines as well. They aren't giving the vaccines in the schools, but they help us facilitate if we're going to offer a clinic at the schools. So. Yeah, it's been a great thing having nurses in schools. Again,
What else are they in all the public schools in Leelanau?
Northport, Leland, and Sutton's Bay through us. Glen Lake has their own, they have nurses as well that they hire, but not through us. Yeah, so our schools are pretty well covered now.
Great.
Any other questions on that?
Okay, well, I'm gonna take back over and just talk about some environmental health numbers. Just, for your information, we do food service licenses. It's a big licensing time for restaurants. So we have 123 fixed food licenses, meaning brick and mortar licenses in Leelanau County. We have 18 food trucks, 2 mobile licenses, kind of like a hot dog cart type thing. And then we do 56 temporary licenses. These were all in 2024. This would be like for festivals and things like that. Some land use numbers. When I say land use, I mean septic permits, well permits, vacant land evaluations, some of that activity. We were up 11% from 2023 to 2024 in those areas. And then in the time of transfer evaluations, which is relatively new, it started January 27th in Leelanau County of 2023. We're a little bit down 5% from 23 or in 2024 over 23. And just to give you an idea, the unsatisfactory rate or those systems that didn't conform with our local code, we were at about 15.8%. And we started out like that in 2023. So we're basically I think it was actually a little higher. It was like 16.8% or closer to 17%. So we will see that number come down over time, like we did in Benzie County, because in Benzie, they've been doing it since 1992, and they're hovering around about a 4% rate in that area. So for wells that were looked at, that rate of unsatisfactory is 4.8%. And that will come down as well. So the turnaround time for getting these evaluations is around 13 business days right now, and that will improve as well. It's a little bit less in Benzie County, it's about 10, but there's a lot of factors that go into that. I mean, to get the water samples about a week. You have to also call MISDIG, and that takes about 3 days before we can actually even go out there to get the utilities marked. There's just many other variables that can go into that can drive that number up, but we're well within the number that's in our sanitary code that says we have to have the report out in a certain number of days. I think it's 30 days. So we're within that. Yep. Go ahead, Ty.
In the Bridge magazine this morning, there was an article about PFAS and septic systems. Are we finding septic systems, and there's a septic inspection test for that?
Well, first of all, the septic inspection does not test for PFAS. PFAS can be a somewhat expensive test. It takes some sophisticated equipment, takes time, sometimes a couple of weeks, 2 or 3 weeks. And there would be, I think they're $150, maybe a little bit less now. But I will say that, most septic tanks, you're probably going to find it, in septic tanks, because it's been in so many household products. Now, whether I don't think you're going to find it in super high levels, but you could in the sludge in a septic tank, especially if it's, if it hasn't been pumped for a long time, then it could accumulate in there. But yeah, I mean, that is something that has been getting a lot of attention, because everybody that's in a rural area has a septic tank and a drain field, and there's some worry about just the accumulation or the all of those systems combined having some impact on our groundwater. So yeah, it's definitely something. It's an area of concern that needs some more study. So let's see. So just the last thing I want to talk about is, and this is always the fun topic, right? The financials. Our 2024 audit resulted in an unmodified opinion with no findings, and that was Dodie Putney, who was our longtime finance director, 28 years, I believe. She just retired, and that was her goal, right? That was her like, I want a unmodified, which we always get an unmodified audit. So it wasn't that big of a goal for her, but that's, I think it was the last week she was here, that audit got presented to the Board of Health. So that's good news. We did end 2024 with a surplus, which we are currently investing in our offices. Well, we invested here in the Leelanau office last year, moved in, I believe, in April of 2024 into the space downstairs, and that's been working out great. I think it's been good for the customers that come in, the clients that are seeking permits to have all the permitting agencies in one place. And seems to be just working really well. So it's a great partnership, and we appreciate being here in this building. We're also currently renovating space at our Benzonia location for the environmental health and admin offices, which is going to give us maybe like 4 more offices and just make the space a little bit more efficient and inviting for the public. And I just want to lastly, let you know that we appreciate your continued support for local appropriations. Even though local appropriations are a small part of our overall budget, it's about 8.8%. Local dollars are really important because they're flexible. So much of our funding is siloed into these different buckets, grants that we get from the state, that local dollars we can use in more flexible ways to support our multiple programs. And the other good thing about it is we can use it for Medicaid match, which is really a good match rate, because we get $2 for every $1 that we match. So that's an important financial mechanism in public health. So that's all I had today. If anybody has any questions.
One question on federal funding.
Yes.
Are you worried about cuts and you've got quite a bit of money coming in from federal and state grants? Worried about cuts in federal funding? Any word on that?
Well, the short answer is yes, I'm worried. But we have not gotten any information. We haven't got any information from our state partners. It's just kind of, we're just doing business as usual and, waiting to hear something, if anything. So I am hopeful that, these are a lot of direct services to people, that those won't be impacted, or at least, not impacted as much. But yes, we are worried. For sure.
Yes, just a question on, I guess, staffing, and that, and congratulations to Natalie. You mentioned a few people in there. She
Mhm.
is the mental health provider at Sutton's Bay School. Is there a mental health provider for every school in the county, or how does that work?
Well, through
Interesting.
us,
Yeah.
our school wellness programs, it's a nurse and a mental health provider. So, and then many of the schools also have additional mental health staff. There's a 31N funding that they're getting from the Department of Education. So there's extra mental health providers in several of our schools through that funding. But yeah, with our program, these are providers, they provide therapy in the school. So they're not guidance counselors, not your traditional school counselor. It's almost as if it's a private therapist with an office in the school. What we know is these kids, if you needed therapy, you'd have to go into Traverse City and you'd miss at least a half a day of school, if not a full day, if you could find anybody.
Well,
So-
yeah, and I appreciate you
Yeah,
helping.
not
out.
what you're asking.
I-
Okay.
Yeah, I just wondered if there's one in every one of our
Oh,
schools.
yeah. I want to say there is. I mean, we have staff, social workers that are just in Suttons Bay and Leland in this county. But
Okay.
as far as I know, the other schools also have therapists. Yeah.
Elsewhere in the report, it talks about, there's probably an easy explanation for this, 87 home visits to 135 families. I somehow, it seems like there should be one family per home visit.
Yeah, that doesn't make sense. Which program was that under? Is there a typo? I wonder if that's mixed up numbers. Wonder if it's maternal.
I just wrote it down as a note, so.
Right here,
160.
Oh, here
Healthy
it is,
Futures,
on
Healthy
page
Futures.
7. 291 contacts
Oh.
with 87 home visits.
I think that's the way it's written is probably not correct. So with Healthy Futures, there's probably, I would say that we have 135 families enrolled in the Healthy Futures program. Some of them get home visits, some of them just have
Okay.
phone calls and they decline the home visits.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a
Little
good catch.
confusing, yeah.
Right, that's a good catch, the way that was written.
You also, do you ever keep track of your expenses by county? Maybe it's not worthwhile doing. I just know that we split up our revenue and that would, and it's, based, I believe, on population. But it would maybe help us track or verify that indeed, yeah, we're using 54% of the services or whatever it is. Not worth doing or talk about it.
That's a good question. I know some of our stuff is
Yeah, if it's
split up by
county specific.
county, if it's, definitely if it's county specific, but it just would depend on exactly what, I don't think we
It
do
would
that
be
with,
kind of a logistical,
Right.
our
Right.
accounting folks would have a real, yeah,
I thought I'd seen that before. That's why I brought that up years ago when I was looking. through it.
yeah.
And
There's
maybe
some-
that's when that was.
I mean, we have numbers served for most of our programs by county.
Sure.
Yeah, so
Stuff like that would
that's.
help us know where county money was going to county folks.
Mhm.
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And I'll take that question back and see what we do have that's separated by county.
mhm.
And Dan, I got the question I warned you about.
Right.
In Centerville Township, there's, and that's the only township I know of, there's quite a movement, and quite a high level of complaints about human septage being used in fields and tilled in. It's a practice allowed by the state. But in Centerville, there's a lot of folks who are concerned. I think your department has probably received calls. So if you could explain that for the public who's here now, I think that would be that would be good.
Sure, sure. Yeah, and I've read some things on it, and I actually had some conversations with staff just to find out, what was going on. And actually, one of our longtime sanitarians, that's his area, and he's been working on that project. But basically, I'll just tell you how it works. I mean, we get notified by Eagle at the state, Environment Great Lakes, or Great Lakes and Energy, yes. They license the septage haulers, okay? And then they contract with us to do the inspections of the sites to make sure that they're in compliance. So the septage hauler, applies to Eagle, for that particular site, then they notify us, say, hey, we need you to go out there and inspect it. There's site plans, there's all kinds of, documentation that goes with it. We go out and we physically go to the site and determine, okay, this is where the boundaries are and whatnot. These are the isolation distances. Make sure that, where they're saying they're going to apply septage is, in spots that are well drained and not, swampy and things like that. And actually, in this case, I think on their original site plan, they were showing some areas that were like, no, that's really not going to work. So we, modified the plan. And all I can say with that is, from my understanding, is like the way that the plan was approved now after those modifications, that they meet all the standards and the setbacks and things of that nature. And then we go out when the site is active and inspect it once a year. Typically, if we get complaints, we go out and inspect it based on the complaint to see if there's to verify, whether there's any merit to the complaint or whatnot. So we are looking at it. It is a contract through Eagle. We don't license them. We just do the inspection part. I can say, I've read some, articles that were about that particular issue. And I think the septage law, is pretty set, right? It's a state law. And I believe there may be some preemption and things that have to do with zoning and how they're set up. I don't know all the ins and outs of that. All I would say is, for those folks, if you have concerns outside of, like, if they're doing the actual application right or wrong, that those should be going to Eagle. They should be going to the state. And then working, through whatever mechanisms you have, if you're wanting to particularly maybe look at changing something with the law, I mean, that's a whole nother process,
Right.
Mm-hmm.
but
I
yeah,
appreciate, I'm sure Centerville Township folks appreciate it. They're very strongly concerned.
right. And I understand that concern, absolutely. And I think it is, it's a pretty well-populated area. And lots of times, I mean, there are other septic sites around, but they're not as, populated. There's just not as many people around. So, and I totally understand the concerns, but, our role is to make sure that they're following the regulations and they're applying the septage properly. Whether they get licensed or not, and all of that is on the state.
Thank you.
So, and I would, we can, if anybody has any questions, I would encourage you, I mean, you can always reach out to us. We can explain more, give you more information. We have all the documents and everything, which are public documents,
Sure.
which I'm sure, people have already reached out and gotten some of those, but if they need anything, just let us know and we'll be happy to provide whatever information we can.
Any other questions?
I just want to thank you for your work. I know that your people are dedicated. And this is their life work
Mhm.
to help people. So thank you.
Thanks, Gwen.
Gwen. Mhm.
Appreciate it.
I just had one question about, you talked about it being 13 days, business days or something to get an inspection. A couple of realtors have talked about, I'm
Yeah.
talking about septic inspections. That it's delayed sales because they haven't gotten the inspection as quickly as they wanted to. Is there a way they can put the money in escrow and know that it's gonna be there to get the inspection, or and still, get the sale done, or do they have to wait exactly for the inspection?
Well, I think in that 13 days is from the time that they apply and pay for the inspection to the time they get the report. So that's the complete turnaround time. So, you know, the only thing I can really say about that is the sooner that they can get that application in and the payment in the process, the better, you know, it'll be if they're concerned about the turnaround time. Is I know that when, you know, if there's an issue identified, like let's say there's an issue with the septic system that's found, they do put money in escrow typically, and that sale goes through and, you know, we try to work with the buyer and seller to make sure that that happens you know, adequately and not trying to hold anything up. I mean, we will, you know, do whatever we can. And there's provisions in our code that talk about that, right? So we're not saying the sale can't go through until it's, you know, you have an excavator and it's completely fixed and all that. I mean, it can go through with, like you said, the money in escrow and things of that nature to, you know, that where the buyer and the seller and the buyer are happy and, you know, it goes through. So we're not holding it up from that standpoint. We just want to make sure that things get taken care of.
Which is understandable. I guess
Right.
what they're hoping is that there could be a way to speed it up, but doesn't sound like there really is.
You know, you know, I'd be happy to talk to our EH director and see, you know, what could be done potentially, as far as from a streamlining standpoint, but I know it's part of it. A lot of it has to do with the person that's applying too, right? Is making sure they have all the paperwork that's in that we need. They're doing it enough, you know, right at the time that they decide to put the home up for sale. And I know these days, right? I mean, a home goes up for sale, it might be sold the next day, right? So, so that's, you know, that's been difficult, right? So
And that's, I mean, I know those are the kinds of things that they're talking about. And then they have to realize they got to do the inspection and all that. They can't sign the final papers until they've got some kind of paperwork.
right,
So
right. You know, I understand. I mean, we don't want to hold anybody up either. So we want to do it as efficiently and as fast as we
yeah,
possibly
I don't think
can.
anybody's saying that you do that intentionally. They're
Right.
just, we're asking if there's some way we can speed it up. And
Yeah.
so that's what I'm asking.
Yeah, you know, and I think that is worth a conversation, and we can, you know, look at some things, try to brainstorm some things possibly that we could do.
Well, it
Just
sounds
speed
like as you go along, it will speed up just by the fact that there's going to be less and less of problems.
Right, right. That, and as we go along too, you know, and you have homes that, you know, that sell again and again and again.
Right.
We have good records, you know, so it's a lot easier to do the inspection. We have, you know, measurements to everything. So, I mean, it will speed up, guaranteed.
Is there an exception? So like if it's been inspected within 5 years, they don't have to have it inspected again?
There is a time frame, and I believe it is 3 years.
3 years.
Right, but don't hold me to that. I'd have to go back and look at the code, but I believe it's 3 years.
He didn't say that. I'm not sure.
Okay.
It's recorded. Everybody knows what you said.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you. I appreciate
Okay.
it.
Thank you.
Update and thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
All right, next up, we are up to our first public comment. We've got 3 minutes with anything that's agenda specific. Do we have anybody out there with public comment? Yes, ma'am.
I'm Deb Coon.
You need to come up here.
Okay, I have a loud voice. Okay.
Right, well, that's fine. People at home still can't hear you. We want to make sure the
Oh,
mic is.
okay.
Sit down, please.
I'm Deb Coon, and I first want to thank Ty and Alan for bringing up the septage problem in Centerville Township. I am one of those community members. I live right next door to the place where this is happening. I wanted to let you know, if you don't, that there is a neighborhood group forming, and we are going to do everything we can to strategize about this. We already know about Eagle and their relationship with the department that just spoke, and back and forth. And when you call one, they say to talk to the other. When you call the other, they tell you to call the first one back. One of the problems is there seems to be only one gentleman at Eagle who is responsible for the entire northern part of the state of Michigan. So he's a very busy person, and it's difficult for him to get answers. Secondly, I want to thank our township supervisor. Ron Chubb has done a great job trying to spearhead this. He had a public meeting last week in which we learned that Eagle supersedes township, what's the word, rules. We have a township rule that says you can't do this, but it can't be enacted because there's some state rules on top of it. So I just wanted to mention to the folks here that one idea could be that we use the existing treatment plants to treat the septage first before using it. And we have two. We have one in Benzie and we have one in Traverse City. So maybe some kind of way for the county to get septage sent. You know, we all watch it go down, the trucks go by. We know it has to go somewhere, right? We all create septage and it needs to do something, but what about increasing our capacity to do our own treatment? That's all I wanted to suggest, is that could be something that could be considered at the county level, is either building our own or sending it to the neighboring township, county septage treatment plants. Thank you.
Any other public comment out there? Wow, okay. No comment. All right, next up, we are to commissioner comments. Algar.
I want to thank Richard Lewis for coming in to help us for 2 or 3 months. Staying forever. And we wouldn't let him go. And he was very nice about it. And he's done a fabulous job. So thank you for using your particular skills to get us through this year. As we welcome Jim Dyer. He's got it all fixed up for you, he said.
No, I've got it to a spot he can handle it.
But you've been wonderful and we thank you.
Well,
And we welcome Mr. Dyer.
I'd like to add to that.
Comments?
I'll save my comments for the end. I gotta get through the.
I was gonna wait till the end, but since Gwen kicked it off, I was about to do it now. I want to thank Richard. I remember you back in 1991. Came to Traverse, and I was just a young kid then. And I remember watching you and Soferdini and Place going at it in the hallway. And I watched you over the years, and then next thing I know, you're up here for 3 months, and it's been almost a year now. And I remember after the primary, I was like, okay, I want to serve 3 months under that guy if I get a chance. So it's been a privilege. I wish you the best, and we got you a card and didn't know what to get you, but there's been a few times when you've taken some of us to the coffee shop to give us a father to son talk. So I don't know, you're gonna have to find somebody else to drink it with, so.
Don't worry.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'll give my comments now. It's okay. First of all, like these people, I said, what started out to be a 90-day gig that I was supposed to keep the ship was floating and not worry about anything, turned into a leave here been a year. And it's been quite a year. I've taken through the help of everybody here, staff and everybody, we got through it. You put up with me, put up with some of my temper tantrums. Thank you very much. And it's been a pleasure. And as I came in today, it was kind of, I know Kathy saw it pretty quickly. You know, it's one of those bittersweet days. I knew this was the last one. Tonight was going to be it. Everything, hopefully the decks are as clear as we can get them. It's a broad week. And I'm kind of going, dang, I kind of like this place. I didn't know I was supposed to come in here and kind of like this place, you know, and the people up here and the people I've got to work with. And so we always agreed, but it was fun. So for the most part, thank you. Thank you for the privilege of being able to serve this county and the citizens of this county. And I have no doubt you're gonna be in better hands than what I was. And so, and he knows that I'm only a phone call away. He's got my email, my phone number, he got my text number on speed dial, so I'm only a 20-minute drive away, and I've got coffee I can bring with me. So thanks. Thank you for the privilege. It's been an honor.
You can
Now, let's
always
get-
watch us on YouTube.
I could. Look, I never washed myself. I can't stand it. You know, I saw a picture of that and this hair is so white. Move on. Come on, get to the agenda. Are we done yet?
Commissioner Bunting first, and then.
Yeah,
No, you can't. You know me too long and there are others.
I've known Richard for about 30 years here now. And we and I have gone to retreats together, and, you know, we had prayer groups together, and really, he's just a wonderful, wonderful man. And I just really appreciate all you've done for Leelanau County and for me. It's been just a pleasure to know.
That goes two ways, dude.
All right.
Can we get on with this?
Move on.
How long do you want to drag this out? How much punishment?
All right, next up, we got our consent agenda. I'll just read a statement here. Purpose of the consent agenda is to expedite business by grouping non-controversial items together to be dealt with by one motion without discussion. Any commissioner may ask that any item on the consent agenda be removed and placed elsewhere on the agenda for full discussion. Such requests will be automatically respected and will not need a second.
I make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
All right, so motion made, supported by Commissioner Robbins. We'll go with the roll call.
Commissioner Bonnet,
Yes.
Commissioner Campbell,
Yes.
Commissioner Robbins,
Yes.
Commissioner Wessel,
Yes.
Chairman Yoder,
Yes.
Commissioner Alguier,
Yes.
6-0.
Yes, the drain commissioner's got a truck. I'll stand myself.
All right. We're on to action item number 1, Parks and Rec, resolution, support for DNR trust grant fund.
For the public, at 6 o'clock, there was a public hearing as it relates to the trust fund grant. Can you do a brief overview in 2 minutes or less?
Sure.
Okay, just so the public will know what the grant's about. I know we know what it is, but still it helps for people watching at home, so.
I'm gonna face this way or this way, this way.
No, this way. They can hear you, speak up.
Veronica Valley was acquired with a trust fund grant in,
Miss, would you announce who you are?
oh, I'm sorry, I'm Tiffany with MCSA Group, and I prepared the grant application for this trust fund grant. And the Michigan Natural Resources Trust Fund, if you don't know, is made up of oil and gas monies on state properties. It goes into a big fund, and every year they dole out the interest. You probably see it in the news. So Veronica Valley is a property that was acquired with a trust fund grant. And this year, we're gonna go for a grant to make the trail around the ponds accessible. And I don't know if you know, but the Veronica Valley Park and the fishing ponds have a huge fishing day, kids fishing day. It brings in about 1,000 people from all over. It's stocked with fish from the DNR that the county pays for as well. And there's just no accessibility. If you go out there in a chair, or any kind of disability, you can't get anywhere. So it is basically a trail around the pond, as well as some barrier-free parking spaces. They're paved with concrete, and a couple of interpretive signs that talk about the ponds itself and then the accessibility. Yeah, that's the long and the short of it. Does anybody have any questions? I did it in less than 2 minutes.
There's a resolution that we would appreciate your support on it. So we can, the grant has to be submitted on or before, well, before April 1st. You want to get it done by the 28th.
Next week.
Yeah, you want it done hopefully next Friday.
All right, Mr. Money?
Yeah, well, I move that the Leelanau County Board of Commissioners adopt Leelanau County Resolution 2025. Okay, we'll assign a number later. Leelanau County submission of the MIBNR Trust Fund Grant. Second.
Commissioner Robbins, discussion?
Yeah, I just want to say that this is a great idea. I've been over there with my grandsons fishing. One fell in because there's no path, you know, so luckily he had a life preserver on and I could just pull him right back out.
Very nice.
Because I thought that could happen. So I do think this is a good idea.
Any other discussion? If not, all in favor of that motion? Oh, yeah, that's right. It's gotta be a roll call.
Commissioner Bonnet,
Yes.
Commissioner Campbell,
Yes.
Commissioner Robbins,
Yes.
Commissioner Wessel,
Yes.
Chairman Yoder,
Yes.
Commissioner Algar,
Yes.
6-0.
Thank you.
All right, next up, item number 2, we have Veterans Affairs, a letter of intent to apply for the CDSF grant fiscal year 26.
Basically, you have the, our cover memo here, our EDS. And this is something that our Veterans Affairs representative, our project manager, Michael Root, would like the authorization to go ahead, it's following our grant policy, needs authorization to apply for the grant. So we're asking that you do so. Allow it. So
It's letter of intent.
it's a letter of intent to apply.
Commissioner Robbins?
I move that the Leelanau County Board of Commissioners approve the Veteran Services to submit a letter of intent to apply for the FY 26 County Veteran Service Fund with authorized project manager Michael Roof of Grand Traverse County Veterans Affairs to sign on behalf of Leelanau County.
Support. Supported by Commissioner Wessel, discussion?
Does anyone know what it's for? What is it actually by?
Veteran Services.
It's actually to have the person here.
Well, I'll probably.
I'm sorry.
That's okay. You're in contract for 6 years to have veteran services here, so that's a separate topic. This is CVSF grant through the state of Michigan. Michael applies for funds every year. This year, the funds are being used for billboard advertising. He's set up a website for veterans that's on our, it's accessible for them. And this is for a letter of intent. The state of Michigan just wants to know of all the groups out there who will be applying. He's not submitting an application right now. It's strictly the state asking for an indication who will be applying. It's not binding. We don't have to do it. And we haven't written the application yet. This is just a letter of intent. So the state knows that we would be.
So it's to promote the program.
Yeah.
Basically, not to expand the program or what to get more.
No, it's usually promotion is what Michael spends this grant money on. It's usually the advertisements in the rec or the enterprise, those big full page. It's the billboard on 22 occasionally. And it's all promotion.
Okay, thank you.
Can you say how much the grant was last year?
They, the award was 50,000, but it was, well, the initial award is 50. And I think it's approved for up to 56,000, but the first 50 is front loaded to this county. And if he spends it, then he can spend up to 56, I think, and we'll submit for reimbursement for that additional 6.
Yeah, discussion? Not all in favor of that motion, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Motion carried 6-0.
Thank you, Kathy.
Thank you, Ken.
Sure.
Next up, we have administration, item A, incoming county administrator employment agreement.
Okay, I think you all received this over the weekend, that we've got everything hopefully resolved and fixed, that Jim can start to work, and he can't leave tonight until he signs it. I'm gonna make sure he signs it. I'm gonna make sure you sign it, so we can do that. But one of the questions you asked about is a 3-year agreement, changed from 1 year to 3 year. The agreement does include that. All the issues that we've had to get resolved so that he doesn't have to be a member of MERS. And all that has been rectified and put into the agreement. It's been reviewed by our legal counsel. So we're ready for you to approve it. Unless you got any questions.
No, I've reviewed the agreement. It's acceptable to me. It doesn't change really anything substantially. The only thing is it obligates both you and I to consider a 3-year term of employment rather than just the 1-year term as was most that was permitted when the contract was originally approved in December. If a contract approved after January can be a 3-year term, which is really what's more typical as indicated by Michigan statute for a county administrator contract. I understand that they.
I can't hear you.
I can't hear. I understand that one of the questions was whether I really intended to commit myself to a 3-year contract, and that certainly is the case. When the original posting for the position, there was a suggestion of a long-term contract, and that was certainly discussed during the application process, and I certainly would welcome that as an option. The one thing you should know about that, it does not obligate you to any form of compensation increase because it's a long-term contract. It specifically says that any increases are directly negotiated on an annual basis based upon performance. So there's really no specific consequence for the county or for me, frankly, for extending it to the amount that's the 3 years that's permitted by state law.
Comments?
I move the Leelanau County Board of Commissioners to accept/approve the Leelanau County Administrator's amended and restated employment agreement and to also be extended from March 31st, 2025 to March 30th, 2028.
Support.
All right, supported by Commissioner Algar. Discussion?
Is that what you were thinking?
Yes, I think it makes the most sense for both the county and for me to have a contract of 3 years duration. They're both sides have outs in the contract if that's necessary. In a similar manner, the contract I had with Northport is now coming to an end because of a 90-day notice period that I exercised when you appointed me to this position. So it's fairly standard agreement for a municipal administrator. And as I said, the maximum amount that's permitted by statute is 3 years which is kind of odd because that statute was enacted back when you only served 2-year terms.
Right.
And now you serve 4-year terms. The reason for that statute is the legislative concept was that you couldn't approve a contract. Normally, you couldn't approve a contract that exceeded the duration of your own term. But the legislature said in this instance that it would make sense, will allow you to have a 3-year contract rather than just a 2-year contract that would be within the term of your own election. But now you're elected to 4-year terms, so a 3-year contract would be served all within your term anyway. So yes, this is both acceptable to me, and I think, as I said, a good thing for the county as well.
Discussion? Not all in favor of that motion, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Motion carried 6-0.
No, please don't. But
Do say welcome.
I will see you in 2 weeks, if not, see Richard on Thursday, and very much looking forward to the opportunity. As Richard has said, what a great opportunity it was for him, and I know it will be for me as well.
Thank you. All right.
Do you have a copy for him to sign while he's here? I want to sign. I want to make sure. I want to split.
Oh, I'll stay till the end of the meeting.
Okay.
I'm as anxious as you are.
Okay.
All right, next up, we have item number B, earned sick time act update.
Basically, on page 18 starts, the revised board policy that was adopted back in December, on December the 10th. That was when the law, it was adopted with the additions of the law, the Earned Sick Time Act, what was in place. As we all know, in late February, the state has changed those rules. And so here we are asking that you amend your policy as relates to this act that incorporates the changes in the policy, that we have. So it has been reviewed by legal, and we are in compliance. So.
Robbins?
I move the Leelanau County Board of Commissioners approve the updated earned sick time act policy number 8.04.
Support. Supported by Commissioner Wessel, discussion?
This is budget neutral, correct?
It is, because we're in compliance, well, we are in compliance. We will, in the next policy, be amending the leave hours for non-union personnel because it doesn't meet the minimum requirement of ESTA. And so the minimum requirement for front loading is 72 hours. Our hires after 2015, if they're a 7-hour non-union, it is a 56-hour credit. So prorated for 2025, we're going to give them an increase of, I believe we calculated 6 hours, and it affects about 20 people that will have 6 extra hours.
6 hours annually.
Yes, well, for this year. And then next year it'll be, what they're used to is 56, it'll go up to 72, starting on 1/1. So I'll show you that impact when we do budget this year.
That's in compliance with the law.
Yeah, it's nothing.
We don't have a lot of choice here. We don't have any choice.
Any other discussion? All right, if not, all in favor of that motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Carried 6-0. Up, we have personal policy 1.07 updates.
Okay. Basically, you had moved this forward on the consent, last week on a 6-0 vote, and would remain on the consent calendar. But we needed to make some changes as related to the sick leave policy, and those changes are on page 29. We needed to add that section in there, which goes with the policy you had in your law. One error that we found in here is that we have a couple of, on page 30, if you were to go down to go down to where it says deleted, regular full-time hired prior to a certain date, there's 2 paragraphs there that should not have been deleted. So if you will move your personnel policies forward, those will be back in there, because we do have some folks that are still on staff that were hired for 2020 before 2015 that have a different schedule. Someday when they retire, then all that could be removed, but we need to leave those in there. So just wanted to make that clear. So other than that, the motion's written, legal is still looking at it. If there's anything of substance that they bring back, we'll bring this back to you. But if it's just, make it an A into an and, don't worry about that. Did I cover it all?
We're correct.
Yeah, everything else you knew about from last week.
Yeah, removing the half day for Good Friday and giving them a full floating holiday.
Yeah.
That's on page 27.
That's it.
Mr. Bunny?
Yeah, I move that Leelanau County Board of Commissioners adopt the updated personnel policy number 1.07 to amend scheduled holidays, payment in lieu of medical insurance, workers' compensation, and short-term disability language as presented.
Second.
Supported by Commissioner Robbins.
Should that be as presented or as amended?
As amended, then.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Can change it over.
I mean, he presented it, so that's what I'm saying. Yeah.
Does it matter who says as presented or amended?
Excuse me, I didn't hear you.
Does it matter if he says as presented, because I wrote it before that correction? As presented tonight, is that good?
Well, as presented At the meeting.
Okay, thank you.
At the I
Commissioner
wouldn't have
Robbins.
done anything, but Kathy had to find it.
Devil's in the details.
Yeah, I know. Just like it.
All right, you got that second? All right, discussion. If not, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Motion carried 6-0. All right, next up, we're 2% allocations intend to apply.
Okay, these are applications or intent to apply that was brought before you last week. They did not have a complete agreement. So the first one is a request from Inland Seas Education Association to apply. I think you're going to take all these as separate motions, correct? Yeah, that's what we have it this way. So. Now, just so you know, when we do this, every one of these folks that apply have to bring back a full application for your consideration next month. So I mean, if something you don't like, you can bring it up then too. So just let me know. So.
I move that the Leelanau County Board of Commissioners allow Inland Seas Education Association to apply to the Grand Traverse Band for consideration of a 2% allocation in the amount of $15,000 for Leo Creek Preserve improvements for the spring 2025 cycle.
Second.
Commissioner Robbins, discussion.
Can I just ask?
We got
I'm
Commissioner
sorry.
Wessel and then Commissioner Fine. They raised their hands.
Oh,
so
I
that's-
wasn't, well, theirs is more important than mine, probably. Mine was-
Not at all. I'd be willing to let you speak first. Maybe you're going to say what I was going to say.
Well, actually, probably not. My question involves you, actually, in that, are these applications all the same? I say that because it, under printed name, that has Ty Wessel's name as chairman. So if they're all the same, you may want to.
Well, these are probably more or less our applications that were there, that were presented last year and probably didn't get funded. They will have to be updated. So-
And we're not sending this in, so
No,
just so the next time those go out, if you can
yeah,
have the
they
right
will all be
email
corrected.
address and
Yeah,
stuff
but
like
they
that.
all have to correct those.
And the motion as stated said that we allow to apply to the Grand Traverse Band. I think they apply to us
Yeah.
to submit a full application. So I would amend the motion a little bit to reflect that they apply to the board for us to submit to the Grand Traverse Band.
Exactly what you're doing. Because the county has to approve this submittal.
We can't approve an application we haven't seen.
Yeah, that's correct. But according to our grant policy that we put into effect, everyone has to be given permission to even put together an application. Now, if you grant them the permission, then they will submit the application in time for you to see it next at your April meetings. And then you would give the approval of the application, and then they would be submitted to the tribe by the end of April, which is the deadline. So, Kathy, did I cover that correctly? Okay.
So is that motion gonna be changed then? To read as that, or is that just a technical?
We're
Or
just, all we're doing is saying that they can go ahead and approve their application at this point. So what words would you like me to change?
Well, the motion says that we were approving that they apply to the Grand Traverse Band. I think they submit an application to the Board of Commissioners to submit and approve
Okay,
to
so
submission.
I move that the Leelanau County Board of Commissioners allow the Inland Seas Education Association to submit an application to
Well,
Leelanau.
I move that the Leavenworth County Commissioners allow the Inland Seas Education Association to submit an application to be considered for the Grand Traverse Band for consideration of a 2% allocation. In other words, they're going to have to get the approvals. So we're giving them permission to submit, to give us, you, the county board, an application that you can review.
Good with
let's stay with the intent and you and I'll get the wording right later. Okay, but you know what the intent
As long as
is.
I don't change the ending of what you're trying to do here, I can be completely allowed to tweak it.
Yeah, and I accepted the amendment.
And I presume that's what you're gonna want me to do the whole way down, which
I would just like to say, I really appreciate it.
Commissioner Bunting's hand was up and then I'll.
Okay, oh, I'm
Yeah,
sorry. I
just
thought
so
She
you-
made the motion, so she gets to go first.
Oh, well, you had your hand up, so I was gonna give you the honors, so whatever.
I was
Okay,
just
go
gonna
for it.
say that I'm really glad that Inland Seas is taking over and being proactive, because I've worked on a smaller grant opportunity with Cape Thornhill for years, and I think this is great. It's wonderful that they've taken, they have more money.
I would just think that we have this under the wrong policy. It's not a grant, number one. So we really shouldn't have it under the grant policy. And that's why I would like us to have 2% policy if we could. I also want to know, how does this funding decision help local government departments?
Well, could I speak to that? Because I mentioned that last Tuesday. We have a Parks and Recreation Commission. We have 3 parks. This is an extension of the county being involved in providing opportunities for our residents. It's clearly, I have a May 13, 2019 opinion here from Cole Stoker and Hosky. We have the authority, the legal authority to do this if we choose to do it. And if we think this benefits residents in the county. And I do think it matches very clearly what we try to do in our parks and our recreation program. And I'm glad we can work with our partners for parks and trails and beaches and to benefit our whole county.
Any other discussion? Not, all in favor of that motion, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay.
Nay.
That's 5-1. Sorry, next up, we have the home sweet home.
Yeah, we went from Home Sweet Home, which is going to be working on a affordable housing program. And this was on your, and this isn't in your packet, it was in your packet at the last meeting, and you approved it on a 5-1 vote, so that's why.
Russell?
For the same caveat as last time, I move that the Leelanau County Board of Commissioners allow the Home Sweet Home Nonprofit Housing Corporation to submit an application for the Grand Traverse Band for consideration of 2% allocation in the amount of $12,000.
Second.
Commissioner Rollins, discussion? Money?
Again, I would ask, how does this funding decision help local governments?
Any other discussion? Not, all in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay.
Nay.
Motion carried 5-1. All right, next up, we got Parks and Rec, disc golf improvements.
Okay. The Parks and Rec would like to submit this grant again this year. Of course, it will be updated with some pricing, but we did allow them to put one in last year. We didn't get, or the last cycle, did not get funded, but they would like to resubmit again. And it's the upgrade of the disc golf course out at Miles Kimberly Park.
Commissioner Money, go for it.
Yeah, I would make a motion that we allow the Park and Recreation to apply for the 2% grant.
Second.
Commissioner Robbins, discussion?
I'd like to say that I would like to sit down and discuss it. I mean, I vote for all these because we don't have a policy that says that differentiates between nonprofits that may be doing things that that we would consider a county government function. Some of these you might call a county government function. I don't think a preserve is something that is in the county's only court. I mean, there's townships, there's all sorts of different groups. So I would I would like that discussion, especially if we can bring in partners such as Sutton's Bay Public Schools, which also has a concern. And maybe it isn't a discussion just within us, within our confines. Maybe we expand our reaches and we reach out to the tribe. And I had a conversation with Bill Rastetter earlier at the Centerville Township meeting and brought this up. And I'd like to have a conversation with the tribe and who knows, we may all end up on the same page.
Discussion.
And I welcome that too, but I do know when we were more conservative about this, that we were not, our county residents and our county programs were not being successful because the tribe was approving grants at Grand Traverse County and Benzie County and others. And then it's a partnership with the tribe, and we need to, if we sit down, we need to have them at the table too.
Absolutely. But when you said Leon, I didn't mean but my colleague, when you say Leelanau County grant, you don't mean a grant representing county government, you mean a grant originating in Leelanau County from a nonprofit.
All right, any other discussion? Not, all in favor of the motion, say aye. All opposed, say nay. Motion carries 6-0.
Then there's number 4,
Yep.
the last one, which is through the, I want to imagine that the district court's going to do this, but they're doing it in order to, update this was a grant to assist child and family services for Safe Haven, which is to provide shelter for youth that maybe need shelter. So it's about $5,000.
Commissioner Hogard,
I move that the Leelanau County Board of Commissioners allow Child and Family Services to apply to the Grand Traverse ban, consideration of a 2% allocation in the amount of $5,000 for Safe Haven in the spring 2025 cycle, and amend that anyway. Yeah.
supported by Commissioner Robbins, discussion.
And I would just, this is supported by the court and an extension of their program that they do with youth in the county.
All right, any other discussion? All right, if not, all in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Motion carried 6-0. All right, next up, our Leelanau Township Communication Tower update.
Okay, last week, thank you for moving this forward. Last week, I thought I would be having a memorandum from Midway Electronics as relates to an option other than just terminating the agreement as it is. I did not receive that other option, which I'll be honest, I probably would not have recommended. So because it was something that delivering it, being paid another 25% of the price, and then worrying about the construction 2 or 3 years from now. But I did not receive it. On your desk tonight, I do have a letter that between myself and legal counsel that we would like for your approval to terminate our agreement with Midway Electronics. Ask for an accounting of all, everything that has been spent, as well as the delivery of all of the tower building material, which counts transformers and everything else they have that they have purchased to put that tower and to deliver those items to us, and which will probably work, and Matt is working on a spot where we can store them at the road commission. So we were asking for that, and we will be, once we have everything in hand, the county will be able to release the performance and payment bonds at that point. We won't do that until we have everything.
Commissioner Bryant?
Yeah, I was just thinking if we could get an accounting, because I see in here, there's a $4,000 bill for, machine for his drawings and the things that he did on it. If we could get an accounting of how much it has cost to not do this tower so far.
I'll be glad to do
And I'd like to send that to Leelanau Township and especially their planning commission.
I'll be glad to do that. Well, it's mainly for the special land use permit, but we probably, between the 2 engineers that we needed to have, well, one was a planner and the other one was, because they had done most of the work on it. So that was the extra. I think we gave it a good fight with their help. Yeah. But left up to me, I would have just been yelling at them, not any person.
That would help.
Maybe if I yelled at them, no, never mind. So anyway, I would ask that we be able, you allow me to submit this letter, so.
So just to clarify, we are gonna have the tower. We're just looking for a place for it. We're gonna store it. Is that what you
Yeah,
said?
you own a tower and everything that goes to build that tower, the nuts, the bolts, the generators, whatever they gotta have, they were gonna bring it up here and put it up. You don't own the concrete because, you know, they don't do that. But that's what you got.
We own a horizontal tower.
Commissioner Wessel?
I think
It's all in parts. It's not one long.
It's fair to say, though, that the Leelanau Township Board does appreciate our commitment to this, and they're not ready to give up. And they did meet last week and talk about other options, and I know Jim Dyer's been a part of those discussions.
We
And I
met
know
today.
that,
I could even give you an update on that if you're interested.
Well, why don't we do that if you don't mind, if we get down to special reports?
That's fine.
We still need to cancel this agreement, so.
Money?
Yeah, I move that the Leelanau County Board of Commissioners approve the notice of termination agreement letter with Midway Electronics Incorporated as presented, and that the interim county administrator be authorized to sign. Richard Lewis.
Support.
Commissioner Alguier?
And I'm gonna look for a place for that in my district. You guys better hustle.
All right, any other discussion? If not, all in favor of that motion, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Motion carried 6-0.
Thank you.
All right, next up, we got the Leland Dam pedestrian bridge change order.
Yeah, we have one, the dam, the bridge construction is going well. There was one small change order we needed to do in order to get the wood to go in there, and I think it's in your packet, so we're asking that you approve the change order with Easland Construction in the amount of, how much is it? We got $1,000,
It's 1,400, I think.
$1,402.42. I don't think there's going to be anything else we'll have to do, so.
What is the addition?
Huh?
What's the change?
Well, the metal, part of the framework of the bridge needed to be welded again, and so that it can hold the wood to it, and that was it.
Not for the gate.
Not for the gate, but that gate's probably shouldn't go in, sir. Because the other side hasn't done anything, so.
All right.
Thank you.
Commissioner Bunny?
Yeah, I move that the Leelanau County Board of Commissioners approve the change order from Eastland Construction Company in the amount of $1,402.42 with the funds to come from fund number 805 Leland Dam Fund.
Second.
Moved by Commissioner Robbins, discussion.
I'd like to report that the dam committee is gonna meet on the 26th.
That damn committee.
Take it how you like it. Spell it how you will.
No, the Leland Dam.
No.
Robbins. I think so.
I would just like to commend Commissioner Bunnick for not amending that motion to get rid of that gate.
Don't even think about that.
I had sent through that fight.
We've already argued that one out, so we're done with that.
Doesn't want to hear it again, I was told.
All right, any other discussion? Not, all in favor of that motion, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Motion carried 6-0.
Yes, I'm telling.
Not yet, not yet. We're not adjourned yet, so hang on. All right,
I
we're
think
on.
we should have a special meeting.
All right, next we're up to review of financials.
Yes, and I'd like to thank interim administrator Lewis for hiring me as the finance director for Leelanau County. I've really enjoyed working with you, Richard. It's been great, and I hope you'll touch base and let me know
Oh,
how.
you never know where I'll show up.
Oh, I want to know about all those kids, those grandchildren of yours. With regard to review of financials, I sent out late last night. I did send some notes regarding some of those invoices on late. I did do a tracking, so I know who read it and who didn't, so. Do you want?
I always deny to let you read it, so. I read them all, but it always pops up to let you know, like decline.
Okay, I know how you work now, okay. So do you have any questions regarding late or any of the claims and accounts that have been submitted?
Just on the machine, is that the last bill for the tower from him?
Well, in looking at the invoice, I feel that it is because the last entry was a meetings entry in January 30th. Was that about the
That would've
last
been it.
meeting?
That's it.
Okay.
Yeah, he's done.
Thank you.
And he was watching the Zoom from home because he wasn't much more, but he was ready to participate, be there. That's when the Township Planning Commission did. So, we're done,
Any other questions?
Questions?
No? Okay. Thank you.
Next up, we have special reports. Yep, Mr. Dyer.
It's not staff, it's close enough.
Very, he's one signature away.
That's right. I was at a meeting this afternoon, or this morning rather, where representatives of the village of Northport and in my case, township officials, township supervisor and a planning commission member and members of our emergency services staff of Matt and his deputy were present at the meeting. And we met with a consultant that's been tasked by Verizon to locate a tower that meshes with the existing towers within specifically Leelanau Township. And Verizon has identified an area, and he's going to provide us with both the central spot of that area that he's tasked to look at. But he's identified two specific spots, one which is property owned by the village of Northport near its wastewater treatment plant, and a spot near Bremen Hill owned by Leelanau Township. And he's determined that both of those spots are within the area that Verizon both wants and believes is sufficient for propagation of cell service. So the agreement that we kind of reached today tentatively was that we would make informal determinations. Both the township and the village would make an informal determination that we wished his company to proceed with a propagation test on either or both of those sites. And if it was satisfactory, that they would potentially build a tower on those locations. I even discussed with him the idea of purchasing the tower that the county already had. That was not ruled out as a possibility, but it is certainly down the road that would occur. Beyond that, I made it very clear to the extent I felt I could represent the interests of the county that if this was to proceed, that someone other than the county needed to be the applicant, the land use applicant, and emphasized again, if it was the village property that was selected, the village would be the applicant. If it was the township property that was selected, the township would be an applicant in conjunction with the construction company. So you would not be in that position to be maligned as you were in the last effort. It's fairly clear that the township supervisor, Barb Connolly, is committed to moving forward, excited about the possibility of moving forward. And I asked during that meeting that everyone that was interested in pursuing this, stop arguing that this is an emergency services issue. This is a necessity of life. That's the bottom line. That you need cell service in this modern era. And if it's going to be provided, it's going to be provided by hopefully someone like Verizon. And we were encouraged to see that they actually specifically want a tower in this area, in the area that, you know, of the northern part of Leelanau Township. So that's pretty much the report.
One thing I noticed is that with the last proposal, it was actually reaching South Fox Island.
Yeah, I don't think that the areas that they're looking at right now would not reach the very tip of the peninsula. So it probably wouldn't, I doubt that it would reach South Fox Island, although the ability of the radio waves to transmit across water is significantly more than it is across land. So it's possible.
Have to use a phone.
Yeah, it's possible. So, but I was very encouraged by the meeting, and more importantly, encouraged by the fact that it's abundantly clear that Verizon wants a tower, contrary to the claims of you know, those that oppose the last tower placement proposal, that there was no interest of any carrier to locate a tower in that area. That's clearly not true, and Verizon is involved. In fact, the company that the consultant came from actually serves other. This particular individual just happens to represent Verizon on this project, but they have projects within their company representing other carriers, and he has a colleague that if the Verizon tower or the tower in Leelanau Township were to be built, potentially T-Mobile would be interested as well. And if T-Mobile, then generally you might even get AT&T. But again, AT&T already has a tower in the village, so that's probably not gonna happen. But that's where we're at.
Jim, there's a nuance there. Are you saying that the village and the township are willing entrance into the tower business, or that they feel that Leelanau County doesn't want to be in the tower?
No, I
business?
wouldn't think that would be the case. But again, this particular consultant was looking at these two sites with the notion that municipally owned property would be the lowest hanging fruit to potentially get a viable site on. And again, the Bremen Hill site might be more controversial because of its location and its current recreational use. But again, the village owned site is literally surrounded by the wastewater treatment plant area. Obviously there are houses that are in view of that potential tower, but it wouldn't be, you know, nearby to any particular house. In fact, it's the site where the former wind turbine in Northport was located. So that's a site that's already had a 120 plus foot structure, and a portion of which is still visible. So
Would they want us to build, or would they consider us building the tower?
typically again, they hire a company to do that. But I asked very directly, would it be possible for the tower that we already own to be a component of this project? And he didn't rule out that possibility, and that could be essentially the stick that could be the carrot. You want the site, yeah, you got to take the county's tower. We'll give you this. We'll give you the site or lease it to you, whatever. But
Right.
take the county's tower as part of the deal.
This could be our contribution.
Which could be the county's contribution. So we've got, I think, just the fact that there's an actual provider that wishes to build a tower is extremely encouraging. You know, when Richard and I first started talking about this, as he said, you know, I'm going to throw this in your lap eventually. So you better know a little bit about it. When we first started talking about it, I was we were kind of both of the opinion that, what are we gonna do with this tower? What if nobody wants to build a tower here? Well, obviously there's somebody that does, and we're gonna try to exploit that as much as we can. Thank you. Any other questions?
I had a Northern Michigan Counties Association. I just wrote it up. I just keep one, pass it down, put it in the minutes. The representative of Spectrum was the main speaker, but you'll also find discussions here on a little bit of what happened in the legislature. We had a state representative from Clare and some, I guess, concerns, questions about the materials management situation from a lot of counties in Northern Michigan who expressed concern, and they are mentioned. I'll leave some out there for public ones, an update too.
Interesting meetings.
Yeah, it was interesting. Yeah, it's good. Good discussion.
All right, any other special reports? All right, we're up to our final public comment, 5 minutes. Do you have any members of the public that wish to address? Kowski?
Steve Mikowski, Lake Leelanau. A couple of things they talked about today, the health department, about septic inspections, and I heard the terminology out of code. I'm not sure if there was a further explanation of it, but I think it's good for the public and everyone to understand what that means. Does it mean that it's out of service? Does it mean that it has to be remediated? Or does it just mean that it doesn't meet the proper specifications? As to the viability and use of on-site septic systems, the EPA 20 years ago published a magazine that's still available electronically called Small Flows. On the front page, it had a complete statement of the best possible sewer systems. And it stated it was the on-site septic system. This would be a surprise to most people, but that's the best possible way to handle sewage. And we need to try to understand what that means as we all stampede ourselves. I remember 20 years ago, a commissioner made bold statements at these meetings that things were out of code and wanted everybody to panic. But no facts were ever given. Not one bit of facts were ever given as to what that meant. And we kept on jumping along until a few years ago, the political system says it's okay now to do that. So we did it. So we're good politicians. On another matter, 3 items were missing from the agenda today, and that's how Leelanau County is going to address the lack of access of the people, the public, at county meetings. At the way they're scheduled and the times they're scheduled, most people cannot attend. And the other item is the ability of the public to speak at these meetings. We're being denied free speech in this process. And the third item is the apology resolution required by this commission for the harm done to the clerk and the staff and the taxpayers for wasting $1 million. It seems strange that we commissioners seem to want to ignore these things. They're unimportant to the commissioners, obviously. But perhaps the commissioners may not understand that the people do elect them. Recalls have been made. And so we encourage you to listen and try to resolve these issues. If you want no people at public meetings that I held in this county, fine, tell us. But to have all the meetings, almost all the meetings, unavailable for most people, our public meetings, is something that was unheard of 30, 40 years ago. So to us, this something has an appearance of fraud. It's our belief that if we do not address these, we are not doing our jobs here. Also, we came across a document called malfeasance, misfeasance, and nonfeasance. I'll get a copy to the commissioners and to the clerk for the public record later on. Thank you.
Any other public comment? Yes, Mr. Weezer.
Bill Wiesner, Elmwood Township. And again, and only to have no fraud, be guaranteed of it, it's only one way. It's very easy. One person, one ballot, one vote, one day. This is another way, saying the same thing. Demand honest elections in our Leelanau County by replacing Dominion or any other voting machine with secure paper ballots, hand counted. And the handout I just gave you shows the solution. It's simple. And this is a Rasmussen report on hand counting paper ballots. It's from February 24th through the 26th of 2025, just less than a month ago. And it shows that people, at least the top category, do you think that hand marked paper ballots are more trustworthy than touch screen voting? Okay, so we don't have touch screen. But anyway, overall, it was very much more favorable, either more trustworthy or about the same. The next category, would you support or oppose enacting a law in your state requiring the use of paper ballots on all elections? And it's everybody, Democrats, Republicans, anybody. When you combine strongly support with somewhat support, the Democrats and everybody, over 50%. What are we waiting for? Why do we have this questionable, I would say provenly false type counting when people want paper ballots hand counted? Everybody's a friend. I trust my friend, but they might make a mistake. So I want to be there when they're counted. There's nothing wrong with that. And look at the third category. And this is one argument against paper ballots. It says, would you volunteer to hand count and examine the election ballots in a local school gymnasium on election night? Every category, over 50%. We're going to have volunteers coming out of the woodwork to do something. Do I want to volunteer now? We got the black box machines. How do I know it's doing any good? In fact, so total support, I would say, for changing to paper ballots. The second sheet is Congressman Sessions has suggested hand-marked paper ballots. He's introducing it in Texas. Voter ID and citizenship requirement, shortened early voting, limited mail-in ballots. I get rid of almost all of them, and paper elections in small precincts. The third and fourth page, and those QR codes, I think that's what they're called, from return to hand counting express training. It's in 60 minutes, this one. You can click on, there's 8 links and find lots of stuff. The next 2 pages are just examples of the tables. That one, and they have it all organized, and there's other systems too. And the last one, train the trainer, hand count mastery. I just went through quickly. I put it on 1.5 speed because I just wanted to see what it was about. And you could do the same, but it goes over every category. The first part is just showing you how to do it. They do this in fairgrounds and such like that, just to show people in 1 minute, they can show them. It's very easy to hand count and it's very secure. And you can redo it. You can have it over cameras, but the black box voting machine, not so much. And this is a Rumble channel. It's 5 hours and 45 minutes. You can skim through some of that. Click on those links. And but this is overwhelming support for hand count paper ballots, volunteers. Over 50% of the people said they would volunteer to do this in the gym. And again, on the other side, we have these, supposed to look like that. But instead, we get that corruption, and this is the results. The middle one is the correct one. The one on the left is this slanted one, and the one on the right is the final results. Thanks for your consideration. This will be online too, for anyone to see this. On the website here.
Thank you. Have any other public comment? We'll move on to commissioner comments. All right. But it's been an honor working with you, Richard, and nothing but the best for you in retirement, and hopefully I'll see you more, but you've been gracious to let this rookie in on operation of county government, and I just appreciate your patience and everything, so thank you. It's been an honor. All right, next up, we got approval of financials. Mike.
Yeah, I would make a motion to approve amendments 25004 and 25005.
Works. Ordered by Commissioner Wessel. Discussion.
Did you want to say anything about them at all?
Oh, well, I think that it'll be, I talked with Treasurer Gallagher today about the budget amendment specifically to earmark DTR to capital building project fund. After discovery, discussion, listening to the commissioners and knowing what Richard and I were able to accomplish to get you an approved budget for 25, the transfer is earmarked, and it's not a mandate to spend. It's an indication of your previous board of commissioners that they felt that there would be a project in your future, cooling tower and the humidification system for the jail, as well as a remodel of the dispatch console area. And rather than the original approved budget where the transfer would go to general fund to fund the contingency and then back to a capital fund, we're going to go straight from DTR to capital building if you decide to have a project. We won't be using contingency. I reduce the contingency in the general fund by that amount, and we won't commingle that transfer to make the board a bit more comfortable, and it's more appropriate.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I appreciate it.
Any other discussion? Not all in favor of that motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. 0.
Thank you.
I make a motion to do transfers 25002.
Second. Ordered by Commissioner Robbins. Discussion. Not all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Motion carried 6-0.
I make a motion for claims and approved claims and accounts of $300,605.42.
by Commissioner Robbins, discussion.
Who said I really don't like the late ones, the late.
I know. I didn't want us to get them into today. That's too late, but we try to keep it to a minimum.
Discussion? Not, all in favor, signify by saying aye. All opposed, say nay. Motion carried 6-0.
I make a motion to approve post audit $2,546,486.79.
Second.
First by Commissioner Robbins. Discussion? Not, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Motion carried 6-0.
Thank you.
That. Ready?
Do it.
We're adjourned.